So this we've done this in each one of our 8 cities. We've got about 100 guys per city. These are all guys who are good football players, you know, in many cases college All-Americans. They've spent time in NFL training camps, CFL training camps, etc. And we're excited about them. They're guys who want to play football, and there's good quality. And this is really just a sliver of, I think, the talent that we'll have, because keep in mind, we'll have a big chunk of players coming out of the NFL cuts, Labor Day cuts, you know, in early September. But we're very excited. I think it gives us, you know, a lot of hope for the quality of play that we believe we can provide.
Now, any players who sign out of this would go into the draft in October, probably?
They go into a draft pool, correct,
right.
And then that draft pool will continue to build that. We'll have probably about 650 or so guys in the draft pool come early October.
Now, is it possible if it's a quarterback, they can sign to a particular team, unlike the other guys?
We want to make sure that every head coach can have a quarterback that really fits his system. And so, you know, that'll be sort of an allocation process for those quarterbacks. But otherwise, we want all the players drafted. Important to note, we don't have any geographical limitations. I think the fewer restrictions, the better. You know, if Jim Zorman's a player that comes out of Miami, then he should be able to draft that player without any sort of geographical limitation.
So, how much information sharing is there between the different camps when it comes to that?
Total transparency. Right, so our head coaches take all this information and share it with each other, because it's critical for us as we start our league, you know, to have the best players distributed, you know, via the draft, so that we can get as much competitive equity as possible. So we've really urged all of our coaches, and they've complied so far. They're all competitive, of course, but up to this point, we're sharing all the information with each other.
What's the timetable on team logos and colors and all that? Because I know fans want to know when's that going to happen.
July. One word, July.
You mentioned geographical limitations. What about the other way, where if you want to maybe keep a UW guy here in Seattle to keep the interest, you know, and then say, for fans in Seattle can say, oh, I know that name. I want to watch the team because of that one player.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure that Jim will end up, you know, having a couple of UW, Wazoo guys on the roster, just like Bob Stoops in Dallas will have a couple of Texas or Oklahoma guys or whatever. So that's bound to happen. But we didn't want to have any sort of, you know, restriction based on protecting players from certain geographical areas. The other league did that this past spring. I don't think it worked out that well. If you looked at the roster that Steve Spurrier had in Orlando, he had a bunch of good players because there's good football players in the state of Florida. So we think that skews the competitive equity a little bit.
What's going to be the way the draft goes? Because, you know, nobody has like the worst record in the league. So how is the draft going to flow?
Yeah, good question. We'll, you know, do it sort of like the lottery, right? And find a, you know, what they call a snake draft, you know, 1 through 8, and then 8 through 1, and then kind of snake your way all the way through the draft. We think that's probably the ultimate, the best fair way to do it without any track record of wins and losses.
Do you have dates on that?
The draft will be mid-October. Don't have a specific date yet, but probably the second week of October.
Is there a location for the draft?
It'll be a virtual draft. We may end up with a physical location in terms of, you know, doing it, right, and having some draft parties and all that. But ultimately, we'll have a representative from each team in our headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut, just outside of New York City, and then Jim and his staff here in Seattle, Stoops and his staff in Dallas, right, and working their draft board. So it'll be really a virtual draft.
Is that going to be broadcast, or is it going to be XFL.com?
Yeah, can't tell you that yet.
Have the turnouts been pretty, I mean, we're only here in Seattle, so have the turnouts been equitable across the board?
In terms of players?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's invite only, so in each one of the showcases, we've had about 100 guys, 110, and they've been solid players. Many of these guys don't live up here, they've flown up, you know, and same as all the other markets. So it's been a nice turnout. We've been fairly happy with it. Our coaches have been impressed, I think, with the talent level.
Do you guys fly them up? Or do they come on their own?
No, they take care of it themselves. So they don't pay to participate, but they're obligated to get here on their own. Yeah. And what impresses me is just the desire these guys have to continue to play football. They're guys who've been in the NFL, been in the CFL. Some of them have washed out. There have been injuries. You know, everybody's got a different story. but it's really been impressive to me to see the passion that these guys have to want to continue to play professional football. Yes, we're gonna do it better. No, so we believe that based on all the data we've assembled, the average replay review took about 2.5 minutes. That's a lot of time, out of the game. So we're gonna have a sky judge. He'll be up in the press box with all the camera angles available to him. He'll have the opportunity to intercede in a decision. And for us, what's important is to get it right, but to get it done quickly, because you don't want to ruin the flow of the game. We think that's one of the big challenges that the league faces right now, our league faces, but all leagues. So we want to make sure that we can move relatively quickly and keep the game flowing.